In London, the furious king offers a reward of £30,000, an enormous sum for the capture of Prince Charlie. King George's safety now rests on Sir John Cope and the Redcoat army which is marching north. Hearing of the reward, Charles offers his own. If there can be a price on the head of a prince, then the same can be done for kings. The prince, meanwhile, has paused with his forces at Fassfern, and from his lodging there, he spies a magnificent bloom of white roses. Plucking the finest specimen, he tucks it into his hat, and from now on, all of his followers will wear in their hats the white cockade. Those followers now number around 1,500 men, enough at last to challenge Sir John Cope and his redcoats. So onwards they march, through hill and glen, avoiding the government's garrison at Fort William. The weather turns foul, but still the prince urges the Highlanders on. The rain beats down and the thunder crashes overhead as they reach Invergarry Castle. But yet more men join them here, and the march continues. The small garrison at Fort Augustus is powerless to stop the Highland army from mounting the crucial Corryarrick Pass. And although Sir John Cope himself has reached the far end of the pass, he is convinced that his enemy are already lying in wait for him there. And so his officers agree that they should avoid a fight in the narrow pass. And so the Highlanders advance across the mountains unopposed. Even the rough terrain fails to slow the speed of the prince's march. With no sign of the Redcoat army, a small force of Highlanders attacks Ruthven Barracks. But the stout walls defy their efforts, and muskets puff from the windows. Several men are hurt. The attack is wisely abandoned. And Sir John, too, is abandoning all his plans of attack. As he marches north on Inverness, he sends letters assuring his masters that he will not avoid battle the next time. With the road ahead now clear, Charles rests his soldiers at Blair Castle. Here he can indulge a little, with a ball, with games of bowls, and he even savours his first pineapple, before moving on to Perth. Yet more men join him now, including Lord George Murray and the Duke of Perth, who become his deputies. From here, Charles can advance into the lowlands, unchallenged. All too aware of this, Sir John urges his army to Aberdeen, desperate to reach Edinburgh before the rebels. And all the time, the Highlanders are pressing further south. At Dunblane, the welcome is very warm. A young maid, dazzled in the presence of her prince, kisses his shoes instead of his hand. And now, the last major obstacle before Edinburgh is reached, the River Forth. With the prince at their head, the Highlanders enter the cool waters at the fords of Frew. But the road from Frew leads the Highlanders close to the great fortress of Stirling Castle, and its great guns fire in defiance of the rebels. The Highland army marches on, undaunted. And now, Prince Charles reaches Falkirk. Unknown to him, he will return here in 4 months' time to fight the largest battle of the war. But this visit is more leisurely, and at Callender House the cause is joined by the Earl of Kilmarnock. That very same day, the 14th of September, the Redcoat army is at last able to board its ships in Aberdeen. But which will prove faster, the ships of Sir John or the boots of the prince? Sir John's progress is good, and soon his transports are drawing near to the Forth. The race is on. The Highlanders are moving quickly too, pausing at the ancestral Stuart palace of Linlithgow, ready for the final push towards the capital. Passing through Corstorphine to encamp at Slateford, Charles is now within striking distance of Edinburgh, and he writes to the provost, demanding the city receives him as its prince in order to avoid the horrors of a siege. Hearing of his approach, the Edinburgh volunteers prepare to defend the city, but as they march towards its gates, many of them abandon their plans for resistance. Which is hardly surprising, as the citizens have just been stunned to see, at the very first sight of the Highlanders, the British dragoons at Coltbridge have taken flight. They were Edinburgh's last real hope for defence. As a result, Provost Archibald Stewart orders the fire bell to be rung to convene a council. But the meetings turn to panic as the ultimatum arrives from the prince, and at last, the Highland army arrives at the city gates. And in the early hours of the 17th of September, the Netherbow Gate was opened accidentally and the city fell bloodlessly. Prince Charles arrives at Holyrood Palace. James Hepburn draws his sword, and he leads his royal master into the palace. Too late to save Edinburgh, the redcoats disembark at Dunbar on that very same day. Meanwhile, the people of Edinburgh are busy proclaiming King James at the Market Cross, whilst the Highlanders make their camp in Holyrood Park. The prince now joins his...
Oh God.